Okay, so recently there's been a clip that's been going around in the VTubing space, which a lot of big VTubers have actually been responding to, and it's all to do with this one Asmongold clip, right? And it says, Asmongold on why he thinks male VTubers serve no purpose relative to female VTubers. Now, this is a very interesting clip. Now, essentially, if you don't know, there's been the whole Holostars drama that's been going on with obviously Holostars getting a lot of their their like support cut for events and concerts and merch and stuff like that, which obviously has brought around the big like anti-male VTuber sentiment, right? Because of course we all know that VTubing is a very heavily female orientated space. I think that's 100% true, right? And you can't argue that. But I think what Asmongold says here in terms of some of these statements that he makes on male VTubers is kind of wrong and kind of just not factual at all, right? And I think it just comes from his kind of lack of understanding and lack of knowledge of the VTubing space in general to understand that there are some popular male VTubers out there. Just because a space is dominated by females does not mean that males can't also have a good career as a VTuber, right? So let's get into this clip and then we'll kind of like pause around and talk about it on certain different topics, right?
Did you see Hololive is going to cut support for their male VTubers? So male VTubers are over. Based? Yeah, based? So, yeah, I mean, VTubing is all about girls. It is. It's a girl thing. Now, there are guys that are VTubers, and, more power to them. Good for them. But the reality is that VTubing is a female activity. VTubing is like it's like a clever use of game mechanics, like an exploit, basically, where women can stream without having to be hot. That's it. And this is a huge...
I mean, he is kind of right there. Obviously there's a lot of good-looking VTubers as well to kind of, provide a, I guess, devil's advocate there. There is a lot of good-looking streamers that also do IRL content. But yeah, of course, a lot of VTubers, not necessarily, they can be big, small, whatever. Some people do it because, yeah, they don't like how they look, right? And that's one of the big reasons why, they tend to become VTubers. But not the only reason, right? Sometimes people just want to be VTubers and they might look perfectly good. It's not like the only choice as a VTuber, but it can be the choice for some people, right?
Huge thing, because, and I've said this before, is that if you look at the top 50 male streamers, the top 100 male streamers, there's going to be a lot of ugly dudes on that list. If you look at the top 50, the top 100 female streamers, every single one of them is going to be at least above average. And the reason why is because guys watch girls because they're hot. That's the reason why. It's so obvious and everybody knows it. But, people don't want to say this, but it's obviously true. So, and 2 of your mods are male VTubers? Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, there it is. 2 of my mods are male VTubers. Well, yeah, and listen, guys, listen. Yeah, well, now you guys shouldn't join Hololive, okay? Well, I didn't know it was 2 of them. I thought it was just 1. They've multiplied now? We have 2 of them now? Oh, my God. How the fuck did we get a second one, man? And McConnell Red? I don't know, man. And anyway, so... here's the way I see it, right? Is that if you're like male VTubers serve no purpose. They have no, like, there's no reason for somebody to be a male VTuber because that, like, the value that people get out of VTubing is the fantasy of the character. The male people that are watching are not, they don't need to fantasize about a male character. So there's no real, there's no incentive that they're getting out of it. sorry, Adelie. Sorry, but that, I mean, I'm right. I'm right about that.
And again, I don't think he's like fully right about it because, of course, I think he's totally forgetting, and maybe it's because it's something to do with his audience or whatever, but he totally forgets that there are female viewers, right? Like, that's a thing. Like, women do watch streams too. It's not just men. And obviously he's saying, like, there's no point to male VTubers because male audiences only want to watch female VTubers, which, yes, you would be right. The majority of male, viewers would want to watch a female VTuber, right? Or a female streamer, whatever, right? But the thing is, there is a lot of females as well who watch male VTubers and male streamers because they like the males, right? And I think, we're not really kind of grasping that. And there's also people who like men as well, right? Of course, like males who like males and all of this kind of stuff. And then also you got like the mix of like some people just enjoy the male streamers because they find them funny and less so like attractive, and more so just like they enjoy their content because it's good, right? I watch it, if you think about some of the people that you watch on kind of YouTube or whatever, right? Do you watch them because they're entirely attractive? not all the time, right? Sometimes you know, watch it because you enjoy their content or you enjoy what they make, right? And of course, yes, VTubers do have this aspect a little bit more in the sense of like, you know, people are attracted to them. There's a lot of the parasocialness to it and whatever. But there is also many VTubers out there who people just find funny, right? Or they find entertaining in some kind of way, whatever that is, right? Which I think is something that they don't kind of, you know, take into account there. But as well, you know, I just think the fact that he's completely forgotten that there is a lot of female viewers out there who are very, 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 very vocal about how much they like their favorite male VTubers and their favorite male characters. Like, you think about Love and Deep Space, K-pop, all of this kind of stuff. You think about how crazy they go for the men on there. You know, they also do that for VTubers too. And I think that maybe, you know, as I said, it's just like kind of a lack of understanding of the VTubing space. And obviously, as I said, it is dominated by, you know, female streamers, right? Of course, female VTubers are, you know, the majority in terms of VTubing. But there are some big male VTubers as well, which we'll go into in a little bit, that also put in a pretty heavy, you know, female viewership, as well as some people that also just like watching them regardless of what gender or, you know, sex or whatever they are, right? Which I think is pretty interesting.
I mean, that's just how it is. And again, I'm waiting to be proven wrong, and I've been waiting for a long time, okay? Anonymity is the reason. Well, you can just stream without a webcam. I mean, you can do that. Look at Lyric, for example. I mean, you don't need an avatar. I mean, I guess if you want to do it, that's fine. But I think that there's a lot of, and this is true, and I will say this, and this might get me in trouble, and I hope so. That way I can make content about it tomorrow. But a lot of the girls that do VTubing, not all of them, many of them are attractive, but basically every single unattractive girl that's successful in streaming is a VTuber. Every single one. Guaranteed. Every single fucking one.
Which, yeah, I can understand, you know, I think a large majority of them are, but, you know, again, that's just not really the point that a lot of people were making. The main thing that people are mad about is the fact that, obviously, you know, saying that male VTubers serve no purpose. They do serve a purpose. They serve the purpose of entertaining a lot of women on the platform, as well as, you know, other people, as I said. But, you know, as I said, if you want to look at this black and white of like, oh, males only watch females, well, what do the females watch? Well, they watch the males, right? And of course, that is the kind of whole thing. But obviously, that's just speaking in black and white terms. We're not even going into the details of people that like other people and whatever. And as I said, we kind of went into that already. But again, that was kind of like the thing that he had to say about that. And I think it is, you know, wrong. You know, I don't think he is right in the fact that, you know, they serve zero purpose. They do not serve zero purpose. They serve a pretty big purpose. And you can see that they do serve a pretty big purpose, considering if you look at some of the most watched VTubers for 2025, you know, last year, these are some of the biggest VTubers. If you count the Burnt Peanut, again, I don't count the Burnt Peanut, but if you were counting the Burnt Peanut, 3 of them are men, right? 3 people on here are men, at least I think. Like, just having a quick look. Maybe, yeah, I think 3. I think I got 3. But obviously, if you don't count them, 2, you know, you got Kuzuha here, and also you have Kane, who, you know, they are both men. They're both, I think they're both Niji-sanji. I think Kuzuha's Niji-sanji. And of course, Niji-sanji has a very, very big male streamer, like, kind of, you know, platform, right? They're one of the, I'd say they're the biggest VTubing agency for male VTubers. Like, again, they're the most successful in terms of that. We just seen recently, obviously, we talked about Holostars shutting down. Holostars was, you know, this kind of thing that is supposed to rival them, right? That's supposed to be, you know, because obviously Hololive's popular with all the, you know, the female streamers. But obviously, you know, Holostars was supposed to rival like Niji-sanji with their male streamers because they have so many popular ones. And, you know, some of them aren't even on this list. You know, for example, we talked about like Vox Sakuma. You know, there was someone who made a literal shrine of him and like got all upset whenever they found out that, you know, he was in like a relationship at one point and they like crashed out. Like that was a female fan that did that. And you're telling me that they serve no purpose and that, you know, people don't watch them. I just don't think that's the case. And, you know, you can argue, obviously, the fact that, yes, of course, you know, you can see here, this graph even shows that, of course, female streamers are much more popular, right? It seems to be female VTubers are way more popular than male VTubers. But to say that they serve no purpose, I think is wrong, right? That they do serve a purpose. They serve a pretty big purpose. They serve a 38.6 million, hours watched purpose, right? 38.6 million. That's quite a bit, right? Obviously, maybe not as much as, you know, Asmongold, but, you know, I think it is a very, very, you know, decent number to kind of, you know, say that, hey, you know, they are purposeful. They do have a purpose. And of course, you know, you got people like Froot as well. There's been a lot of VTubers reacting to this, including Froot, saying, when will this guy just shut the fuck up? And also, yeah, it's like, you know, you got Legal Mindset as well. Someone who, you know, heavily, like, there's a lot of people who agree with Asmongold on some of his other takes and stuff like that, who are even saying like, I don't know about this one, right? Because again, I think it is just misinformed, right? I don't think he knows enough about the space to really be making a comment on it, right? It's saying Asmongold is not factoring in the power of the Niji sisters. For Joshis, all girls seeking BFE, that's a surprisingly big market, which 100% true, right? Illegal Mindset has been someone that agrees with Asmongold quite a bit, right? And obviously saying just depends on the individual viewer's taste. Saying, are we forgetting the burnt peanut? He's a VTuber, not an anime avatar. I think what it is, just your angle, then just a hot boy anime avatar. Saying there are no male VTubers. I give an example. I was talking about Nux there. People saying Rev. And again, there are plenty of male VTubers who do different things, right? And maybe they're not the most kind of, what do you call it? Like the most default VTuber, because obviously, you know, you got like the hololives and whatever. And, you know, we got like some of the male VTubers here, like Kuzaha. Obviously, they're like kind of, you know, your average VTuber who follows a lot of the VTuber stuff. Then you also have like people like Rev and that who use a VTuber model, but maybe do like news and things like that, which is a little bit less, kind of, what do you call it? Like orthodox. But they still technically are a VTuber, but obviously, you know, Rev doesn't use a male model, so again, I think that kind of just like messes things up a little bit. But again, obviously, it's just the whole case of, you know, I think that, you know, the take that they serve zero purpose, that they serve no purpose. Literally here, male VTubers serve no purpose. Value of people getting out of VTubing is a fantasy of the character. Basically, every single unattractive girl that's successful in streaming is a VTuber. Maybe there's a couple of exceptions on TikTok or something. So again, you know, they do serve a purpose. We know that there are some crazy female fans out there who love their male VTubers, and of course, you know, that's very, very popular. Say, you got Merryweather here saying, you know, the Roach King speaks true. What purpose has the maleoid if not to show beauty in his ugliness? Men can be pretty cartoon characters. Female viewers enjoy good-looking men. Don't make me laugh. It is for women to be beautiful and men to be bold testosterone monsters. And obviously, yeah, saying like, hey, you know, men can also be attractive to people too, right? Including a lot of women. Like, again, they say, female viewers enjoy good-looking men. Don't make me laugh. You know, of course, you know, 100% right there. You know, Lucas say, objectifying female VTubers or shitting on male VTubers because he doesn't find them hot. Law, real classy opinion there. Which obviously, yeah, we're not going to even listen to Niara because I just don't care. Same with Binted as well, actually. I say, why do people watch this guy? Nothing but outtakes and disgusting behavior. Obviously, yeah, people are unhappy with the take. And again, I can understand why people aren't happy with the take. They say, I think male VTubers are cool and they should be welcomed with open arms. So suck a pee-pee and being a VTuber doesn't make you ugly at all. I'm saying it's fun because I just made a post about male VTubers, but let me say it again. Being a female may get people in the door, but if you ain't interesting or you ain't running a fansly, they're just going to leave in due time. An interesting personality, niche, and certain level of passion still rules at the end of the day, and so does being authentic. I may not have some deep-ass voice or some kind of wild theatrics, but people follow me because I'm just a dude. And believe it or not, being real is sort of attractive these days because of how far people have been pushed as a character, which, yeah, I think is true, right? And I think that is 100% one of the things as well. And obviously I said, yeah, bro clearly hasn't seen the shrines that female fans make for male VTubers. I don't know if you forgot that female viewers exist or something, but they tend to be the audience for male VTubers. That's why, though the VTubing space is dominated by women, there are still successful males, which, yeah, you know, true, based me. Obviously, yeah, saying, I mean, I kind of agree, but also disagree. And obviously, yeah, there's some things to agree on, you know, with that. But I think, you know, the point of like male VTubers serve no purpose, is just wrong, right? I think that is the part that I disagree with, right? And again, there's been a lot of different comments, but yeah, as I said, you know, people like Froot have been kind of commenting on it, saying, you know, when will this guy shut up? And there's been many people kind of giving their own opinions on it. But again, I just don't think it is, you know, that much of a, you know, big deal. So I kind of went deep into it here. Lots of male VTubers are awesome, but you also need to know how to market yourself, not be creepy and realize you're not a woman and make content for women, not copy them, which, yeah, 100% is true, right? I think that a lot of these successful male VTubers cater towards the parasocial nature towards women, right? You know, and we've seen, as I said, with like the whole love and deep space thing, you know, they love their men, they love their anime men that you can pull for through the gacha, right? And they tried to do something similar through the medium of VTubing, and they kind of, do a lot of that kind of stuff. And that's why some of the most successful male VTubers are very parasocial with their, viewers and tend to have this kind of like almost boyfriend mechanic thing, which obviously is very true with female VTubers as well. But I feel like sometimes it can be a little bit less so. But I feel like a lot of these successful male VTubers lean heavily into the kind of like pandering to their female audience, which, to be fair, I don't think there's a problem with that. I think, you go ahead, like, get that bag, because obviously they know their audience. They know what purpose they serve, right? As, as Asmongold was saying, that is their purpose. And, of course, they can go ahead and serve that. So, again, I just kind of want to talk about that because I thought it was a little bit weird, right? I thought that, kind of downplaying male VTubers as a whole, just because Holostars has, lost a couple of things, right, in terms of events and concerts and whatever. I don't think that means that it's the end of male VTubers overall. There's still very many popular male VTubers out there, especially within Niji Sanji and other kind of places as well, which I think, to say that they serve no purpose is just, pretty crazy, right? But yeah, that's all I got for this video. If you guys did enjoy this video, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. Also, go to GameStop, use my code Kaza, get 10% off. Again, they've got a ton of really cool stuff over there. Definitely recommend checking it out. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. That's all. See ya.